Alright, so lately I've been getting more comfortable with this idea of using agents to help me write code, especially with those more human-in-the-loop kind of workflows. That said, it's quite a bit different than just prompting, copying, and pasting. Agents are actually able to do quite a bit of autonomous planning and orchestrating using tools. You can get them to make a bunch of API calls, query databases, and read documents, and then they stitch all that information together in a way so that LLMs are able to give you more reliable results. But more than that, you can actually get your agents to do things: modify code, run builds, execute tests. You can get them to open pull requests, trigger CI/CD workflows, and even help you with code reviews. Or maybe you can get it to order you a cheeseburger, get it delivered. But yeah, like I said, to do all that, agents need tools, and my goodness, there are so many tools. So to help with that, the folks at Anthropic introduced this thing called Model Context Protocol, MCP. It's an open standard that helps with discovering and invoking tools in a more regular way. Still, when I first heard about it, I thought, man, that can't be good, giving agents known for their hallucinations and glazing access to passwords and third-party systems. But yeah, I guess it's not that much different than publishing NuGet packages or SDKs and enabling your client applications to make a bunch of API calls. But yeah, still, I can't help but feel a little bit nervous. But then I figured, what the heck? The best way to deal with this is to actually try and build an MCP server for myself. A little proof of concept. Now this one's going to be real simple. I'm going to call it coin flip service. Little helper function, returns heads or tails, helps you make all the real important decisions. Paper, plastic, buy it, build it, love it, leave it. Now, before we dive into the code, let's see if we can make some sense of what this MCP server is actually going to look like, architecturally that is. So yeah, I'm using VS Code with a GitHub Copilot chat extension, and to tell it where my MCP server is, I got to register it. So I can do that here inside of a little .vs code folder sitting in my workspace. And inside there, we got this MCP JSON file where I can list out all my servers. And once we got that, VS Code can actually make the call and launch the process. In this case, I'm going real simple. It's just a local .NET console app. Going to make basic calls using the standard input-output. At least that's how they define it in the protocol. And here you can see the agent's going to make calls to my MCP server using a client transport object. And my server's over here listening with its own server transport object. Once the request gets sent, the transport hands it on down to the coin flip tool, and that's got a private method that does the actual coin flipping, heads or tails, real simple. Now there's other ways we could have done it. We could have had the agent use an HTTP client transport if the service was hosted remotely or on the web. Or for that matter, we could have had our local service proxy all the calls out into the cloud using REST or some other API-friendly protocol. Alright, now let's check out the code. Okay, so here I took a decision to build my little MCP server as a C# console app built on .NET 10, and they make it real easy for me with that Model Context Protocol NuGet package. From there we can pop into the program.cs file. Now for this little proof of concept, I just went ahead and kept all the logic in one file. At the top you can see we got references to all that MCP SDK stuff, protocol, server, and a little JSON manipulation. Head down to the main method just like with any console app. Not going to be using any of these arguments, and here we're going to start building up the actual MCP server. It gets instantiated when the process starts up. And we can start by defining the coin flip tool itself. An MCP server can have any number of tools, but for this demo we got just the one. We'll set some basic metadata, name and description, and this is the text you'll see in the UI under the list of tools. There's no input schema that I got to worry about. Once you got that, you can inject the coin flip tool into our little server options helper. This is where we set up the actual server, give it a name, version, and define the handlers. Now, we got two main kinds of endpoints here. The list tools for discovery and the call tools where we execute the actual code. Again, if we had more than one tool, we might want to add a switch statement somewhere here. But for what we're doing, we just go ahead and call the business logic, flip coin. Inside here you can see there's not a lot going on. Returns a heads or tail string based on a random number between 1 and 2. You'll notice we're spitting out an error message to help with logging and debugging. I'll show you that in a minute. That's because we want to leave our standard out channel left open for the actual MCP responses. It's a bit hacky, but good enough. Once we get our response back from the helper method, it gets mapped to an MCP text content block. And that's it. Now, don't forget to build it, and let's see if we can get it to run. For the demo, I just went ahead and added a local .vs code folder into the root, and inside that there's an MCP JSON file where we define the actual server itself. Here we call it CoinFlip. We're telling VS Code that it's a .NET console app with standard input-output and where you can find it. And for the most part, once you save the config, it just shows up right here under Extensions, MCP Servers, Installed. Notice the blue workspace folder icon. Now we could make it global. Command-Shift-P, MCP, open user config, plop the server JSON here, make sure it's an absolute path, and there you go. The blue dot is gone. Now this is neat. Click the Manage button and open the Output tab. Get it running and you can see it's got a life cycle. We can pop open a new chat and ask our agent to go ahead and flip a coin. At first you're going to want to be specific and use the actual name of the tool, coin_flip. This is the first time you got it running in the session, you'll notice that it's going to ask for permission. It displays that information we defined earlier, name, description. Now this part's real important. They've got that subtle disclaimer here, but you got to remember, the accountability falls on you, the user. You've got to make sure that you can trust this thing. I mean, the agent could be handing off all your credentials to some bad actor, man in the middle. You don't know. Or maybe it's just bad code, an infinite loop that's going to cause the agent to burn up all your tokens. But yeah, we know who built this one, so you can go ahead and click Allow for the session, the workspace, always, and there you go. Now here you can see where we log the request. You'll notice this one's flagged as a warning. Like I said before, we're using the standard error for logging. We don't want to clog up the standard out response channel. Good enough for a demo. Alright, back in the chat. Now, it's going to be helpful to remember that the agent's probably keeping track of the whole conversation, part of the context window. So there's a good chance that it's going to remember what you mean by coin flip or flip a coin, even if you don't use the exact tool name. So here, if I just ask it to flip a coin, it's going to assume what I mean and call coin_flip again. That gets a little scary if you've got a bunch of similar tools wired up with similar names. LLMs are still prone to hallucination, or at least they're making probabilistic guesses, and that's because English is squishy. So yeah, keep an eye on that. Of course, you can mitigate it with a more formal prompt structure using one-shot or multi-shot examples, but yeah, that's it. Pretty basic, except it's kind of not, is it? I mean, once you start adding real complexity and risk into the mix, then you got to think about all that usual stuff that comes with any client-server architecture. Just remember, what I showed you is just a proof of concept. Don't use it in production. But it does show off how easy it can be to enable an agent to act and affect change beyond the scope of an IDE, especially with all those MCP extensions out there. And that can be real empowering, but also kind of scary. I mean, these agents can move a whole lot faster than we can, but at the end of the day, it's still you and me who's accountable. But yeah, have fun, but just be careful. All right, my name's Steve, and you can catch me on YouTube or LinkedIn, and I'll see you there.